Hey squad, this is Brandon from the Bantu Sun, Bantu Up, and thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to take the opportunity and really discuss or get a more in-depth understanding of Central Asia and the importance of this region in the current global environment. So, we recently released a video called the Crypt 6 based on China, Russia, India, Iran, Pakistan, and Turkey. We believe these 6 countries pose the greatest risk in their own individual right to the current global world order, the post-World War II Bretton Woods world order that we currently live in with a heavily tilted Atlantic mindset. So what these countries do is they're each in a certain position of strength to grow over the next 20 to 30 years in their own right. And we think that the geopolitical game over this next 20 and 30 years is going to be the West's interaction with them, with these 6 countries, as well as their interaction with each other, and then their spheres of influence in Asia, and how they grow that influence to a larger scope. So, if you look at the countries China, Russia, India, Iran, Pakistan, and Turkey, you notice that they're all Asian countries, and all of them have Central Asia at their back door. So Turkey to the west, Central Asia to its east. China to the east, Central Asia to its west. Pakistan, India to the south, Central Asia to its north, Russia to the north, Central Asia to its south. So as we transition from this post-Soviet war world with the end of the Soviet Union, which held sway and monopoly in this region, now we're going to a more fragmented transitioning stage to see who's going to step in and fill this void out of these Crypt 6, because it's going to be one of these major players that have influence in this region. So centuries ago, there was a space race, but not an outer space race. This was a real estate space race between the British and the Russians in this region called the Great Game. And although I didn't see its importance back then, in the 21st century, this game is real. This area is very vital and important because of its strategic location as well as the demographics and resources of this Asia, especially in light that the major threats to the West in the current order of things all border this region. So this region is going to be the 5 out of the 7 stands. So we're going to have Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and the other 2 stands is going to be Pakistan, of course. But Pakistan is part of the subcontinent of South Asia, and Afghanistan is kind of an in-betweener. So because of the way the subcontinent, the tectonic plate that the subcontinent rolled into Asia, Afghanistan is kind of Central Asia, but it's also partly subcontinent. So it's an in-betweener. So I usually address Central Asia as the 5 primary stands of those countries listed. And each one of these stands have their own special position. So you have Uzbekistan, which holds the Fergana Valley, which is the agricultural breadbasket of this region, which has extreme geography. Whether it's deserts and mountains, Fergana Valley is an oasis of Central Asia. As well, Uzbekistan is the demographic center of Central Asia. Roughly half of the population, around 75 million people, live in Central Asia. About 35 million of those people reside in Uzbekistan. So they're attracting a lot of attention as a marketplace attraction, as well as development of natural resources. So they share common natural resources such as uranium is in this region, as well as cotton is another major product of this region. Kazakhstan is going to be the largest landlocked country in the world. So it sits there right in the gut of Russia, but it's sparsely populated. It's home to the Eurasian steppe, which the Mongols use as a highway to conquer regions of the Middle East, Central Asia, and Eastern Europe. As well as bordering the Caucasus region, the important Caucasus resource region of Russia. You have Kyrgyzstan, which sits to the top of China, to China's northwest, a famous region of the Silk Road route that went to Greater Persia during their time. To the south of that is going to be the highly mountainous uh, Tajikistan. So Tajikistan is going to be like 90% mountains, highly mountainous. You ever saw Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan on the map? They look like they're being squeezed, but this is because of their extreme geography. And we also have Turkmenistan. So Turkmenistan is like one of those hermit kingdoms. You meet a person from Turkmenistan, it's similar to meeting somebody from North Korea or Brunei. Like people rarely travel to these regions, relatively closed off. But Turkmenistan is a natural gas hotspot. So each one of these countries have their own special position and that an attraction for these surrounding regional powers. And for one of these surrounding regional powers, one of these Crypt Six to be thoroughly uh, to fulfill their self-actualization, their full strength, they're going to need to engage and strategize in service and relatively influence these countries. So they're all landlocked. That's the key thing with Central Asia. So the key routes to get to Central Asia primarily flow to Pakistan in competition with Iran. But because Iran is on the outside of the global world order, Pakistan has been able to step in. Turkey has an attraction. Almost all these countries are primarily Turkic countries. So in Central Asia, it's roughly a confluence of Turks and Mongols, but primarily these Turkic ethnic groups, especially on the upper belt. So on the southern belt, where you have Iran, that leads into Afghanistan, and that leads into Tajikistan. Tajiks are Persians. So out of these five stands, they are the one stand out of those five of Central Asia that actually come from a Persian ethnic group. And Iran tries to push that influence through southern belt of Central Asia to get to Tajikistan, which borders China. That northern belt, you can actually go from Turkey to, and this is why it's so important in the Caucasus what's going on with Azerbaijan and Armenia, because Armenia is kind of sitting between the Turks on the Black Sea and the Mediterranean and the Azerbaijan resource rich country on the Caspian. So it's been said, especially because Azerbaijan is another Turkic group. So you can almost say that Turkey, as it's been said before, Turkey and Azerbaijan is one nation, two states. And in between this is this great legacy Christian nation of Armenia. So as you see, as that's heating up, and Azerbaijan has been getting more of the upper hand with support from the Turks, you're starting to see other countries step in, such as Iran or Russia, to try to support the status quo. But that ability to go from Turkey, possibly to Azerbaijan, to Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, which would bleed over into Kyrgyzstan, and what's on the other side of Kyrgyzstan? Another Turkic group in northwest China, the much maligned and assumed oppressed Uyghur population of northwest China. So you have this massive Turkic belt that goes all the way out to the Mediterranean, all the way touching the western, northwestern region of China. This can be a massive opportunity of influence for Turkic trade, unification, and exchange that can happen across this all important route. Of course, you have it as a former Soviet space. So the Russians are still there on the way out, but they're really trying to maintain some presence and build this area up. This is going to be a Islamic a region. So you're going to have the opportunity for countries such as Pakistan and Iran and Turkey to build on those bonds. You have China, which is the rising economic power in the region, and stepping up its trade game and buying up influence and through partnerships and infrastructure investments in the area as well. And I think that why this leads to another major point: Ukraine. So you might say, well, what do the war with Russia and Ukraine and Eastern Europe have to do with this area? Look at the map. So if you have Ukraine, which is the gateway to the South Caucasus, uh, the Georgia, Azerbaijan area, as well as Turkey, as well as the North Caucasus, which you have these relatively small enclaves of tough fighters in the mountains of the North Caucasus. This bleeds right over into Central Asia. So any influence further east, in Georgia's right there as well. And we know how some countries have been pushing for Georgia to join NATO. So with the war in Ukraine, with a Ukrainian thoroughly influenced by the West, this was open up that Caucasus gut of southern Russia to give influence into Central Asia. But without that influence, the West is kind of blocked off from this region because it is landlocked. So it's a lot of opportunity, it's a lot of potential and capacity that this region has. But one thing is for sure is that it flanks the back door of all these major countries and is a great target for influence from the West to try to control this region in a more comprehensive way. So that's our thoughts, how we think of this current shakeup of Central Asia. Let me know your thoughts, where you think we got it right, where we got it wrong. Please comment below, like, share, and subscribe if you like. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.